And we're live on the Google Hangouts. Season 2, episode 27, IOC podcast. Ryan Siriaco, Dave Harding. All right, let's jump right into this. Got a lot of stuff and not that much time to do it in. All right. Welcome to the IOC podcast, season 2, episode 27. Dave Harding, Ryan Siriaco with you once again. And you know, our friends over at audible.com have been awesome enough to sponsor this podcast. DH, I think I figured out which book I want to download with my free credit with audibletrial.com/IOC podcast.
What's it gonna be, dude? I want to hear.
It's gonna be it's a toss-up between the oral history of SNL or the oral history of ESPN. Both by the same author, but it's going to be one of those.
Well, whichever one you pick, I'll pick the other one.
Oh, that's a good idea. I think we should probably do that. Either way, we can't lose because Audible.com, with their free trial, you get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial with www.audibletrial.com/IOC podcast. Over 150,000 other titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. That's audibletrial.com/IOC podcast. Go get that. Support us, support them. And here comes episode 27, season 2 of Implied Oral Consent. Once again, it's on the IOC podcast, Implied Oral Consent. Ryan Siriaco, Dave Harding on this gloomy Thursday evening, but it's draft day once again. It's weird. I think we talked about this earlier. It seems like we always record on the night of some kind of draft. I know we've had it during the MLB draft recently. We've had it during a couple different NFL drafts. And tonight is the 2015 NBA draft in your hood in Brooklyn, New York.
That's right. It's at the Barclays. At first, I don't know why I thought it was going to be at Madison Square Garden. I just walk downstairs and sneak on in. But the Celtics have a pick, maybe two. I think just one. Looking like maybe Sam Decker. Making some comparisons between him and Gordon Hayward, but I don't know if that's fair. I didn't see this guy play a lot. I played for Wisconsin with Frank the Tank Kaminsky. But I'm looking at the draft board now and the guys going up and down, and it's either Duke, Kentucky, or a different country. And then you got one guy sandwiched in there from Ohio State, D'Angelo Russell, who is probably, and hopefully for you, going to go to the Lakers. Draft day is always fun. You get to see, guys put the hat on. I know ESPN had a story all about the hat lady, who gives these guys the right sizes, and got to account for dreadlocks and afros and whatnot. So that was an interesting story. But yeah, we're always doing this during something. But Thursday is just like our day. I'm in the groove on Thursday. It's almost the weekend, so my spirits are kind of going up, and we're not going to change. You guys can listen to this the next day anyway. It's just for us. We have to make the sacrifice, and we're doing it all for you.
Yeah, I really do like Thursday because, knowing that it's going to come out on a Friday when, maybe people might have a little bit of free time to sit and listen to it over the weekend, or maybe tee it up for their Monday commute. I think that might be perfect for us. It allows the weekend to happen, like things to go on for the following week, and then we can report on it. So, I think that we're going to keep going with it until we go to maybe like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Baseball Tonight broke it up into the scoreboard and then the opinions, essentially the stories. And I love that format. And maybe that's something we'll pursue, some kind of, maybe it's like an interview segment is just one. I know like Tim Ferriss podcast interview, that's like all he does, interviews really interesting people. So once we get a little more clout, I think we can do something good like that.
Yeah, once the Implied Oral Consent name actually means something to people out there, then we can sit down and dedicate, 45 minutes to an hour just having a conversation with one person about anything. really.
Well, and speaking of that name, I know you and I are so excited, and we've been back and forth on whether we want to release this or not. And it's coming soon, but we've been tinkering with the graphics, and we've been going back and forth on email, and we think we came up with a really great new logo design that we're going to be rolling out and showing everybody, and hopefully developing some merch as we move forward.
Yep, it's. I think we decided last night that it's going to be a week from today that we're going to be doing a live reveal on all of our social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and don't worry, Adam, I know where all of our handles are, and I wrote it on my hand. I wrote it on my arm.
Messing it up.
I was practicing in the shower earlier. It's not.
He was like doing he was doing a remake to Memento. That's the only way he could figure out his day. Where's our Instagram? What's the Twitter? Oh, that's right.
Exactly. So yeah, so we're really, really looking forward to it. It's so clean, and and when we kind of describe what it is and how it breaks down, it actually means something to both of us individually and together. So we're really looking forward to rolling that out. Oh yeah, it was really, it was a perfectly collaborative effort too. Like, it started with
resharpen the Photoshop skills. Hadn't done a logo design, I think, in a couple of years.
Yeah, and then thank God for you and your Photoshop skills, because otherwise it would have been a scan of a notebook sketch that I did at a Starbucks like a week and a half ago. While
you were doing your screenplay?
Yeah, exactly. So many things. Like this, I'm just a multi-hyphenate, you know? So
I love that Family Guy sketch. You know, that Family Guy sketch where everybody's like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, my screenplay. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be a thing at the Starbucks in Rocky River, which is not too far outside of Lakewood, where I live here in Ohio. That would be a big deal if someone was writing a screenplay there. Out in LA, that's every other person plus the barista behind the counter with the screenplay. So
sorry, 1 second, I'll get you coffee.
Yeah, I'm just picking up this last act break real quick. 1 second. But no, other than that, that's probably going to be our next real big update next week. We've already ordered our brand new business cards that we're going to be passing out while we're going to be in Cincinnati. Our goal is to get that out to as many people as possible so they can spread the gospel of implied oral consent out to the masses. Yeah, come get one, and we'll be happy to give you one. And talk to you about the good news that is our podcast. And if you can believe it, the Magic Weekend is only two weeks away.
Wow, I can't believe it, actually, because I'm going to Maine next weekend, and then I'm going to be getting back and have like 4 days to get ready.
Yeah, and next week is going to pass by a lot more quickly than most, because it is, our America's birthday, 4th of July, next weekend. And so, whether it's going to be, the short week, I don't know if you have a half day on Thursday or any kind of craziness like that, or, other plans for the weekend, it's just going to fly by. And before we know it, it's going to be, the week of last minute arrangements. You're going to have to pack all your stuff, get all your equipment together, and Thursday night's going to roll around, and Akron Canton is going to be the site of the magical moment where we get to meet for the first time.
I'll make sure I keep LeBron out of all the shots, because I know he's going to want to come see this going on. He'll be in Akron just for that.
Yeah. Oh no, actually, speaking of Akron, I wonder if they changed the sign or amended the sign. Akron Canton, home of LeBron James, birthplace of Steph Curry, the first NBA champion of Akron, Ohio. No one's really been talking about that.
Yep.
But I don't know. We'll see. You'll see it when you fly in. Really excited. But speaking of Cincinnati, we'll actually have to start this podcast with a little bit of bad news. And that's the first piece of bad news is going to be revolving around Pete Rose. And there are a lot of people rooting for this comeback story Pete Rose, especially with the All-Star game being in Cincinnati this year, and new commissioner Rob Manfred kind of giving him a little bit more rope as far as his participation with all the different events and him having a more prominent role. But new developments came out. ESPN's Outside the Lines obtained a notebook or documents from a notebook that did in fact prove that he not only bet on baseball as a manager, but rather also as a player. And now, in your opinion, does that put the final nail in the coffin? Or do you think that none of that should matter in kind of talking or reestablishing communication on reinstatement?
I think reinstatement might be out of the question, but it sounds like he's still going to be involved with the All-Star weekend. He's still going to kind of be around the game. I just think a full reinstatement would be kind of disrespectful to everybody else who didn't violate this. And it was very clear that this was, kind of a death penalty. And I think he's getting a pretty solid pass. I read the Jason Stark article talking about how he wanted to write Pete Rose's plaque into Cooperstown and say, hit king, three-time World Series champ, all this stuff. And then also, bet on baseball, kind of just like, guys, Barry Bonds, he should be into, played in the steroid era. Clemens, he should be into, played. So you put all the facts in there. It's not a hall of, the morally just. It's a hall of fame, the best players. So I think Hall of Fame is still on the cards, and honestly, they should give it to him while he's alive. I think it's a little petty to wait until his death, but reinstatement, I don't think so.
So I guess the slippery slope of this this argument, and I fully agree with you. By the way, I think that's kind of it. It kind of doomed him to a life of autograph signings and conventions and stuff like that to kind of maintain his notoriety and actually have his be his primary revenue stream. But it's the slippery slope argument of, okay, if he's not in the Hall of Fame because of gambling, or if you put him in the Hall of Fame with all of that stuff and it's not a Hall of Morality, why not Mark McGwire? Why not Barry Bonds? Why not A-Rod in the future? Do you put those guys in?
I think you put them in, and I think the writers are going to have to put in one of those steroid guys first before Pete Rose is going to get in. But if you have the most hits of all time, it's hard to keep that person out. Same with Barry Bonds, most home runs. You just can't keep him out because if you look back, let's say Cooperstown was saved from an apocalypse and somehow there was this bubble around it and it was like a time capsule. And within 1,000 years, people are like, what was this baseball game? If Barry Bonds and Clemens and Pete Rose aren't in there, it's not telling the full story. Now, you're going to still get side notes and you're going to figure it out in one of the museum hallways, but they got to have plaques in there because if it's preserving history, that's just part of the history.
Would you maybe put like a separate wing for those guys?
I wouldn't do that. I would just make sure to put it on the plaque.
Yeah, well, I guess, that to draw attention to it, that would be pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's really tough because, it's like, okay, so obviously the main argument for a steroid user is that, the big asterisk, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's like, but for these steroids, a guy like Barry Bonds probably would not have had a prolonged career or nearly as many home runs or hits because of the effects that they have of being able to recover better, train harder, et cetera, et cetera. So their performance was enhanced by this one thing that you can point your finger to. As a gambler, a player, and then as a manager, but more so as a player, I guess it isn't as clear. It's pretty, for the most part, you can assume that he was actually betting on the Reds and not against the Reds to
Sure.
win. So kind of following the stream of consciousness on that, if you're betting on the Reds to win, wouldn't that be like kind of additional motivation for not only you but the rest of your your teammates to do well. You want that to happen. It's almost kind of manifesting a positive outcome. Now, the complete flip side of that is if he were to bet against the Reds, that becomes point shaving, and that's where you mess with the integrity, like single-handedly mess with the integrity of the game.
Right. So, well, that is a good point. But I think also conversely, it's kind of like I liken it to insider trading. Pete Rose is going to know what's going on, and if he has all this knowledge and he's making bets, if there's a spread and he says, well, they're rolling this guy out that's going to give up like a ton of home runs, or this guy only gives up ground balls, he can know the score, and now he can obviously be a positive factor, and he's going to still get hits because obviously it didn't affect how well he was playing with his teammates. But it's the insider trading thing of having knowledge that other people don't have.
No, that's perfect, and that was actually going to be my counterpoint on that one. So, ultimately, obviously Martha Stewart went to jail for insider trading. So, if keeping Pete Rose out of baseball is the worst that happens to him, I think he'll still be okay. I don't know. I'm a big fan of his. I think he deserves recognition.
Got to put him in.
Yeah, but
someday.
that's that. I hope it happens in our lifetime, much less his lifetime. But that remains to be seen. Hopefully, we'll actually get a glimpse of him in Cincinnati. I'm sure we will. We're going to be all over that place. We're going to be all over that place that weekend, and there are going to be few, if any, current players down there. So I think there's going to be good chances of seeing him, especially at like the Fan Fest, to which we have tickets for Saturday and Sunday.
2 times.
2 times. Let's play 2. The other sad piece of news, and I don't want to kind of linger over this one too much because it's a big bummer, but it must be said and recognized, is that unfortunately 13-year veteran Darryl Hamilton was the victim of a murder-suicide this past week. He was 50 years old. He was it was his, I don't know if it was a wife or it was just his baby mama, but it was the mother of his 14-month-old kid.
Right, who's luckily unharmed, thank God.
Yeah, well, the kid, thank God it's unharmed, but at the same time, he now has to grow up without a mother and a father due to this woman's selfish and savage act. But it's just a shame that there aren't too many details, but they had recently broken up. They were kind of at odds about custody, and I'm sure one thing led to another, and cooler heads did not prevail on this one, and Darryl Hamilton was just the victim of a senseless act.
And it was really a shock, and I know just from reading more about him, he was an integral part of the MLB Network team, and again, another guy who's just around baseball, definitely a lifer. 13 seasons, played in a World Series with the Mets. That World Series that was against the Yankees, Subway Series, and it just shows you it's like life is so fragile, and these guys are human. We only see them on the field, so you expect, they're just going to be there, like FanFest. Oh yeah, these guys are going to be back every year. We'll get to talk to them, but it's just a really, really tragic incident, and it should be noted that this guy was a gamer. To play any amount of time in the majors is a major, major accomplishment.
Yeah, it's 13 years. That's not even including, I don't even know how many years he's stuck in the minors. So
right.
that's like pretty much half his life he spent dedicated to baseball professionally, if not obviously high school, college, and kind of even down to Little League and T-ball. So rest in peace, Darryl Hamilton. Let's just hope we don't see too many horrible, senseless acts happen to anyone, much less kind of the baseball players that we love. But I wanted to get all of that sad, bummer stuff, Debbie Downer stuff out of the way, because we have a lot of really awesome things happening in baseball right now, and lots of firsts, lots of very intriguing things that frankly could not have happened until now. We live in a very modern age. We live it's a great time to be kind of like a progressive human being these days.
Yeah,
to be totally thinking, to be inclusive. to have equality in the world. And, Major League Baseball is no exception to this because 16-year-old shortstop Melissa Mayo, or Mayo, I don't.
You got it, Mayo.
Mayo. I need to brush up on my French. I took upper division French in college. I need to brush up on that. But Melissa Mayo, 16-year-old shortstop from France, has officially been added to the Major League Baseball international prospects list. And now, for those of you that say, she's 16, that's no big deal. Bear in mind, for anyone that's not American, okay, if you're an international player and you want to join the major leagues, your first step for any kind of eligibility is to join this list, and it's this international prospects list. And because she's proven that she's got the skills and the ability to do this, she has been officially added. And so, yeah, she's currently playing for the under-18 junior national team in France. We posted video of her, kind of fielding grounders and hitting the ball on our Facebook. She looks like a gamer. She looks good.
The footwork is quick and it's accurate. The throwing motion is great. I think you mentioned before second base written all over her. She's only 16 now, but the growth spurt, if it does happen anymore, it won't be a ton. And you see a guy like Pedroia at his height playing second. I could never imagine him at short, and they're going to be similar in height. And that throw from deep short in the majors is no joke. But her hitting too, she got a little hitch, a front leg lift, very, very much major league. I had the same thing in high school. I like to lift my leg up high for timing. But she was hitting the ball pretty hard, and if she can hang with a group of guys playing ball now, no reason she can't continue to do so.
I fully see her at least joining, a minor league team, being signed by an organization, not even just for the novelty of it all, because I think she's probably at 16 now better than a lot of these high school prospects that are being drafted in the later rounds of the MLB draft. I could conceivably see her getting drafted in the 20th, 15th, 20th, 30th round.
Yeah, and
someone giving her a chance, someone signing her to a small contract, and then let her play rookie low A, kind of developmental league stuff, and then see where she goes from there.
Like you said at the beginning, it wouldn't have been possible 10, 20 years ago, and not just because of the progressiveness, but because I feel like countries like France and European countries don't have a strong baseball program. I mean, they don't have really much of a following there. So by now, other countries are starting to catch up, and they've got, soccer obviously is everywhere, but hopefully baseball is becoming like that, and it's good to see. It's much more international than just, we say it's international, but it's really Latin America. It's really America, the North America. So it's good to see.
Yeah, well, really, at all sports these days, thank God for cable television, satellite television, the internet, all that kind of stuff. All of your major professional sports have become global games, and they've, from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s, have made a concerted effort to spread the game throughout the world. And she's 16 years old, which means she was born in 1999, which. My feeling old moment of the day. That's when I graduated high school.
Wow.
So yeah, so she graduated. She was born in 1999. Kind of grew up in this kind of modern time where the dissemination of information has been that was her life. And so I'm sure she grew up watching people like Derek Jeter, trying to model him. And we're going to see this generation of little girls and little boys, for that matter, kind of all over the world, kind of picking up these sports. And I have no doubt that she will, she or someone like her, another girl like her, will be in the major leagues one day. And I think it's really interesting too, because I think it was it AT&T or some kind of, I forget who the company is, but they've been showing this one commercial for the past 2 months of the first female pitcher in the major leagues. It's kind of like this bait and switch thing, and at the end they reveal that it's the first female pitcher in the major leagues, and kind of be there for this moment.
Right.
It's funny that this came about now, and it's very much a reality. I think it's going to happen. So, kudos to her, and to all those little girls out there. Keep on swinging.
Yeah.
So,
did you ever have in Little League? Did you ever have girls on your team? I remember I had 2 girls that were really good, and I was like 12, 13 years old, and they had to go off and play softball. But I honestly thought they could have kept playing into middle school and high school.
Yeah, I never had that. Never had that, and there was really no one in like my high school or anything that wanted to play like baseball.
Right.
Everyone was pretty much relegated to their normal sports. But then again, this was back in the mid to late '90s, where things weren't as progressive as they are now. So, no, it's just really awesome to see. So it's a good time that we live in right now, yeah. So I'm curious to see what she has to offer. But I think that officially brings us to the midway point of our podcast, Implied Oral Consent Halftime Show, brought to you by DraftKings.com. Fantasy sports fans are winning huge cash prizes every day at DraftKings.com, America's favorite place to play daily fantasy sports. I was actually thinking about the golf tournament that they had on DraftKings.com this weekend, and it was very easy to pick Jordan Spieth because he's kind of like the new big stud of the golf world right now.
I went to college with his brother.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah.
2 degrees of Jordan Spieth.
I've never met him, but yeah, that's the degree of separation.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've got one for the British Open coming up in a few weeks. Lots of daily baseball to be played at DraftKings.com. But really, the great thing about it is daily fantasy means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Just pick your sport, whether it be golf, basketball coming up in October, football coming up in September. It's going to be coming up soon. Or baseball right now. Pick your sport, draft your team. It's like a new season every time you play, so you're never stuck with the same players. Over $1 billion will be won at DraftKings.com this year, and you or me or people listening could be the next to win big. So go to DraftKings.com right now and enter the promo code IOC to play for free. That's promo code IOC for free entry now at DraftKings.com. And, speaking of kings of pitchers in the National League right now, I don't think anyone is going to dethrone Max Scherzer.
No. King of the Mountain has been won back-to-back, nearly Johnny Vandermeer status. He's got a chance for back-to-back no-hitters. And that perfect game, I remember I texted you, I said, hey, are you watching this? Scherzer's still going, and the 7th, I think it was around the 7th, is about to start. I picked it up in the 6th. And then an elbow pad ruined it all.
Thank you, Evo Shield, for sponsoring his no-hitter and not his perfect game.
Saving funny bones world over.
It's okay. What's your take on that? So Jose Tabata, for those of you that didn't watch or haven't really been paying attention, Jose Tabata was at the plate, right-handed batter against a right-handed pitcher, 2 outs, and on the brink of a perfect game. Inside pitch, wasn't too far inside, but he kind of grooved it close to the midsection. Tabata wearing an Evo Shield elbow guard on his left elbow, kind of maybe gives a little bit of a bend at the waist, and it skims his elbow guard. No harm, no foul on Tabata, but what that does is that takes away a perfect game for Max Scherzer. Now, everyone's talking about unwritten rules, that this was Bush League, blah, blah, blah. But reading a lot of the some of the players' reactions, I kind of agree with some of the other ones too. It's just like, okay, if you're a competitor, if it's 2 outs, bottom of the 9th in a perfect game, if you're a competitor, why would you roll over and just give it to them? If there's an opportunity to take it away, why don't you do it?
Yeah, he was interviewed after the game too, and he said, I was trying to get hit, and initially, before I had heard any reaction to what had happened, I thought, wow, that is total bush league. But then I watched the slow-mo of the replay a few more times. Totally a slider that didn't keep sliding. And he has a nasty slider that totally could have backed up inside corner over the plate. And when you're a hitter, you're trained, okay, there's spin. I'm not bailing. I'm not going to bail on this pitch. Even when it gets close, you're not going to bail. And I had a friend in high school who he got hit in the mouth with a curveball that didn't curve. And it was going like 75, 80. And the rest of the season when he came back, he was flinching at every curve. So as a hitter, you're trained not to bail. And I think that's all it was, is he fouled off a few pitches. He's like, I'm not going to bail. I'm not going to strike out. I'm looking for a good pitch. And it hit him. Now, had he not had an elbow guard, I think he would have leaned in. He would have thought twice about leaning in as far as he did. But that's not something you have time to really react to. You're just, see the pitch? No, I don't like it. He leaned in and it hit him.
Yeah, so I think I changed. I agree with you. My initial reaction was bush league, but I did change my mind a little bit after careful consideration, because you're a competitor out there. We joked around this whole time. It's just it's very Roger Dorn Major League 2. It's like they needed a base runner to get something going. Get Dorn up there to take one for the team because he always liked to pitch him inside.
Yeah.
The line that always gets me, the one that made me die when you brought it up, was which one was it, DH?
Well, they put him in. He's like, here, Dorn, go in. He's like, it's not my bat. It's not my bat. Get up there, Dorn. Give him the helmet. And
they give him your flapless helmet. They give him the John Oldroyd helmet.
And he goes up there, and Bob Uecker, he's Harry Doyle in the movie, and he's saying, like, here comes, they're going to pinch hit with Roger Dorn. Dorn's over the century against this guy. It's like, I guess they're thinking.
Lots of foul tips.
I don't know what they're thinking. And then he gets hit right in the back.
No, but what's great, though, too, is like Dorn knows it. He steps in. He's got his bat on his shoulder. And he's just like, huh.
He like half turns his shoulder.
Sad sigh. It's like,
and then he doesn't want to get pinch run for. Classic. So great, which is a good tie-in if you've seen the whole series, and most baseball fans have. In the first one, he's totally getting out of the way of ground balls. He doesn't want to get any bruises or anything, and so it's just his character. They tie it in. Oh, Dorn, like in Major League 2. He doesn't. He's a pretty boy. Doesn't want to get hit by the ball. That's a great carryover from the first movie.
Yeah, that's what we in the industry like to call a payoff.
Yeah,
it's a nice setup and payoff, like that actually spanned literally the course of like the beginning of Major League 1 and ended in Major League 2. So that's a really long lead. But it was really awesome. But
if you have Max Scherzer, if you have any Nationals pitcher, pretty much your fantasy team is set right now.
You're doing well. Speaking of fantasy, I think a good fantasy pickup that he's probably not getting picked up in a lot of leagues right now is Marco Estrada with the Toronto Blue Jays. I keep getting alerts on my phone, like push notifications. Marco Estrada is perfect through 6. Marco Estrada is perfect through 7. Literally in consecutive starts. Okay.
Yeah.
In consecutive starts, he's putting out just straight gas, and he's getting great support by his defense. Again, Mr. Josh Donaldson, MVP candidate, he almost replicated the catch that he made in Oakland over the tarp, but this time he dove over the tarp and into probably like the second row to save what was at the time a perfect game, but he lost it again, catch. I think 17 thirds. So,
yeah, infield single, man. Infield singles always ruin things.
Yeah, and that happens, like unwritten rules. Do you bunt in a perfect game situation? Is that Bush? No, I don't think it is. If you are a speed guy,
Yeah,
or if you're like Poppy or Adrian Gonzalez, who kind of
get
you
shifted.
get the shift. Why wouldn't you want to aggressively bunt over to third base and kind of put it in the hole over there?
The only thing I'll add is if it's not a close game, I'm trying to get a hit. I'm not going to do that. But if it's 3 runs or less, even 4 runs or less, I'm going to try to get on base.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, that's our fantasy pickup of the week, brought to you by DraftKings.com. Also, I think we're going to revisit just really quickly. I think you mentioned Jason Hayward, before, whether or not he was someone that you wanted to give up on.
And I'm never giving up on you. Ever. Yeah. He's 4 home runs in his last 6 or 7 games. And somehow A-Rod is also just still going ham. That was a great early season pick up off of waivers. So I'm feeling good about those guys.
No, and actually, I think 2 episodes ago I mentioned Phil Hughes, that he was going to be. I didn't have the cojones to drop him. I'm glad I didn't, because pretty much the moment my faith started wavering, he basically turned it around.
I wonder if he's available in my league. I might be needing to pick him up.
Yeah, I think you should. He's definitely trending upward. Minnesota is continuing, kind of staying atop the AL Central. So I think he's definitely worth a look. But speaking of your boy A-Rod,
not my boy, but he's my fantasy dude.
It's weird that he's hitting all of It's weird that he's hitting all these milestones right now. It's kind of hard to root for him, but he's hitting milestone after milestone after milestone this year. And this past week, he hit his 3,000th hit. And just like Jeter did before him, his 3,000th hit was a home run. And notorious ball hawk and published author Zach Hampel, catcher of more than 8,000 home run balls in his lifetime in multiple parks around the country, actually was able to snag this one. Of all the people, it may as well have been Jeffrey Mayer out there.
Well, and I heard one of my friends, we were out on the stoop in Brooklyn, and he said, I guess people recognized who he was before the home run was hit out there, and they pushed him over the row that he was in. And what was funny is the home run ball came in and it bounced around and it landed right where they pushed him.
Oh man, are you kidding? Of course it did. Of course it did, because this is his lot in life. This is his thing. God put him on this earth to catch home run balls. But the Yankees knew. The Yankees sent everyone and everything at him to negotiate and try and get this ball from him. I don't think, even if they gave him a private plane, I don't think he would have given it up. So
just the spite.
Yeah, Adam, actually, thank you for reminding me about this. Like, I almost completely forgot about this happening this week because of all the things that happened this week in baseball. But yeah, he posed the question: what would you ask from your favorite team if one of your team's players accomplished a milestone and you had that ball?
Well, I think I would take season tickets for, I would say for life, but to make it realistic, I would take season tickets for at least 10 years.
For a 3,000th hit like this?
Yeah, at least 10.
Okay, because if you think about this, like these types of balls go for maybe $50,000, $100,000.
Yeah,
that's about how much those tickets would cost you, right?
Yeah, and I would say, and the way it would work is paid for through 10 years, and then they're mine. They're still mine, so I could pay for them or not, but pay for my tickets. Well, give me like nice season tickets for 10 years minimum. That's what I would take.
That's actually pretty good. I think I would probably amend that. I'd take it for just maybe 5, but during those 5 years, I get to have I get to have about 20 of my closest friends come and play a game at the park on a day that is convenient for everyone. But I get to play a full game at the park.
That's a great one. Yeah, we were talking about
year.
wiffle ball. That's once a year, the annual.
Once a year for those 5
game.
years. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, kind of supply me and my people with home and road uniforms, all the equipment, and an umpire or an umpire team. Give me the multimedia access so that like everyone can have a walk-up song.
Heck yeah.
Give me scoreboard access so we can put up like pictures and stats and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, and then we get to dress in the in the home clubhouse, and then it's yours. You can have this 3,000 pit bull.
Yeah, here is your baseball.
Yeah, and we don't have to make this public. That doesn't have to be like a public thing. It can just be something that you will just contractually let me do.
Exactly, and I think that's the thing that people have a hard time with baseball is I don't feel the need to post always. I do because I'm going to because that's the age we live in, but I just love being at the park, and I know you do too, and that would make that reality happen. Getting to be on the grass, no better place to be.
I fully agree. So I think the experience is just as cool as like the money.
Totally.
And obviously the money's good too, but I think that would be super awesome. Like it's on my bucket list to take batting practice at Dodger Stadium. I think just to take one ball, one hit, keep the bat, keep the ball. I think that'd be amazing. So
yeah. Well, speaking of amazing, that brings us to our way back and gone Cincinnati edition as we lead into this All-Star weekend. In 1970, June 24th, 1970, which was yesterday, in the last game ever played at Crosley Field, Lee May and Johnny Bench hit back-to-back home runs in the 8th inning to give the Reds a 5-4 win. And after the game, home plate is presented to the mayor, Eugene Ruhlman, and is flown by chopper. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Home, Riverfront Stadium. So very, very cool stat there. The back-to-back homers. You got Johnny Bench involved, and the last game in the old stadium.
Well, no, I think it's just a super cool touch that to be cheesy. Home will always be home. Home is where the plate is. Home is where the plate is, and so this original home was transferred to the new home. It's kind of a nice bridge from the old to the new, and it's going to be really awesome to see this brand new park, and especially kind of surrounding the pomp and circumstance of an All-Star weekend.
Yeah,
because it's really cool to see a brand new park just during a regular game, but
it is
to be there for this kind of energy is going to be extra special.
And I'll tell you another story that you may or may not know, but Ted Williams, one game, he noticed that the home plate was crooked. And the umps and everybody was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's crooked. And it turned out that they measured it and they did all their things, and it was. That's how freakish his eyesight was. He could see that it was crooked based on being relative to the left and the right field foul line and the mound and just all the lines. I don't know how somebody notices that, but that's how you know that you're the greatest hitter who ever lived.
God, I think his new nickname should be the Protractor.
Yeah. I mean, the guy flew jets in the Korean War. That's
unbelievable.
Ultra precision. So, yeah, the home is where the plate is.
I love it. Great story. I love that story. And we're almost about to wrap up here. Just a couple more hits. Listeners' emails. Obviously, if you have any questions or comments that you want to bring to us, or if you want to respond to any of the stuff that we've been talking about, you can go to the IOCpodcast@gmail.com, which our buddy, friend of the show, Adam, has done. Last week we brought up the whole all opponents team that Vin Scully originally kind of fielded, and DH kind of took a crack at it last week. From Adam's perspective, because he too is a Dodger fan, lifelong Angelino, but obviously hasn't been around as long as Vin Scully. His list will be slightly different. So he went catcher to pitcher, went as follows. He went catcher Benito Santiago. It's solid. That is a solid catcher.
Solid.
Yeah, especially in the 80s and the early 90s with the Padres and the Giants.
That's right.
Among others. Will Clark, Will the Thrill, and Ryan Howard. Nice book of the obviously Giants-Dodgers rivalry. Will Clark, he always just killed it. I remember my neighbor, next door neighbor, growing up, he was actually a San Francisco Giants fan, and whenever we would play baseball in the street, he would I will never forget this. He would always his batting stance would be Will Clark's, like with his arm like almost completely covering his eyes, like looking down, but like peeking out of his the corner of his eye to get the ball. So that was it will always be a fun memory of mine growing up. But Ryan Howard too, just killing the Dodgers, especially kind of their multiple chances to try and make it to the World Series with that first kind of core group of like Loney, Ethier, Kemp, Jonathan Broxton, Chad Billingsley, like those kind of guys. That killed Manny Wood's chances of ever getting back to the World Series. So he was always a killer.
Lefty first baseman with tons of pop.
Tons of pop, and obviously the Hall of Famer Craig Biggio, recognized this past year, Mr. Versatility, going over to third base. Chipper Jones.
I
don't know if I've shared this story, but speaking of Chipper Jones, my sister-in-law Lindsay, growing up, like I love this story. Like growing up, their brother David, my brother-in-law David, would always kind of mess with her, and she was a little gullible as a little girl, and he convinced her that his full name was Chaparticus.
What?
Yeah, Chipper was short for Chaparticus Jones, which sounds like a 70s blaxploitation
yes.
kind of crime fighting star. Chaparticus Jones.
Chaparticus.
Don't hit them hoes, Chaparticus.
Oh my God! How do you get away with that? So Chaparticus at third base.
Chaparticus Jones at third base. Rafael Furcal and Jimmy Rollins. I almost said Henry Rollins. Jimmy Rollins and Furcal, actually both current, Rollins current Dodger, Furcal former Dodger, but both of them, Furcal mainly with the Atlanta Braves and Rollins with the Phillies, just absolutely just killing it offensively, especially against the Dodgers. Outfield consisting of Barry Bonds, obvious reasons. Tony Gwynn, obvious reasons. And he picked center field Andre Dawson.
I like that pick.
The Hawk, Hall of Famer, solid pick. Kind of shake the ivy out there. You never know what you're going to find.
That's a great commercial.
I love that commercial. Picked three. Actually, he picked two for sure pitchers in Jake Peavy, who in his prime was just absolutely dominant with the Padres.
He was incredible.
Problems messed him up with and I think a torn pectoral muscle messed him up with the White Sox, and he was never really the same since then. And I think Greg Maddux should be like kind of number one on that list.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, the poster boy for Glidden paint.
Yeah, exactly. Just painting those corners. And then he split the vote on Smoltz and Glavine. So really, if you think about it, in our lifetime, you're not going to find a better trio than Maddux, Smoltz, Glavine coming out of Atlanta. So didn't really pick a closer. I would probably, I guess, all opponents. I don't know. Who'd you pick?
Hoffman?
Yeah, Trevor Hoffman. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. It's many times saving against the Dodgers. You see the Padres 18, 19 times a year. You got to pick Trevor Hoffman as your closer there. So final quick hits. You should try and find a time to get out to Fenway on July 28th when the Sox retire number 45 for Pedro Martinez. I think that's really, really cool.
If I can get away, I am going to be there. I need to look at my calendar real quick because that's a definite possibility.
I'm sure you know a couple guys that could help you out with that too.
Yeah, I know a couple of people. He was my favorite pitcher. He's my favorite pitcher ever, and I emulated his whole wind-up and delivery and everything growing up. And I remember going to multiple games. He'd lose 1-0, 2-1, no run support. Went to the game when they played the A's, and he was late. And then I went to the game. Then his next start, when he showed up and he had like a Mercedes wagon following his Mercedes just so his car wouldn't break down. Because that's why he was late the last time. It broke down on like the Mass Pike. But great, one of the great Jerry curls of all time, and had one of the best runs ever for a pitcher, and especially in the era where we could see it on TV. Yeah, a former Dodger also once upon a time.
Which just absolutely destroys me every time I think about that. For what they gave up to I think it was Delano DeShields was the main piece in that whole thing. So Delano DeShields is on my list. He's on my list, but and finally, the winner of the College World Series is not the Vanderbilt Commodores. It is the Virginia Cavaliers. And everything was kind of pointing towards this like super team in the black pinstripes, gonna take it all. Number 1 draft pick, Dansby Swanson.
Won the first game of the series
on this team. Yeah, but they took the series 2-1, and the Virginia Cavaliers, UVA, are your World Series champions. Well, that's all I really have to say about that. I really don't have much to comment on the College World Series.
Well, it's funny because I didn't see any. I don't have TV, but it never gets a lot of play. The College World Series, it's just kind of on, and if you're into baseball, you watch it. But otherwise, there's no big stories about it. They don't do like E60, or there's really not a lot of coverage. It just kind of happens, and then these guys are already drafted, most of them, and then they go play in the bigs.
Yeah, exactly, and you'll see them in 5 years. So
5 years. You heard it here.
We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys later. Maybe in a futures game. Hopefully, we'll see them in the futures game in a couple years at Nationals Park in Washington D.C.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know that we're a little bit bummed about the rosters for this year's futures game because everybody's getting called up. But yeah. I'm excited to see at least the Red Sox prospects. I'm sure you're excited to see the Dodgers, and Schwarber will be there, hopefully hitting some home runs, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, no, I actually, just speaking of that, there are developments that I read about, how I was kind of bummed that Corey Seager was not allowed to, wasn't on the roster. It's because the Dodgers didn't allow him to play.
Wow. All right. Okay.
So that's an unfortunate development, but we'll see where that takes us. But I guess it brings us to the end of our podcast, episode 27. Thank you once again to audible.com and DraftKings.com. That's audibletrial.com/IOC podcast and DraftKings.com with the promo code IOC. Go check them out, support them, support us. But if you have nothing else, I'll wrap this puppy up.
Yeah, I'm going to catch some of this draft to take some photos, finish up some work here. It's a little late on the East Coast, but no big deal. Yeah, that's it, man. Good pod. Should be good. Oh, looking forward to next week for the big reveal and having that be the penultimate podcast before you and I get to do one in person. So until next time, as always, you can find us on Facebook.com/implied oral consent, Twitter @the IOC podcast, on Instagram. Make sure you hashtag all your pictures with hashtag IOCme, and you can find us @implied oral consent. Any questions, comments, or queries, or any responses to anything you've heard today, you want to weigh in on, Melissa Mailleux, or my pronunciation, you can always email us at the IOCpodcast@gmail.com. In
I don't know. Did we?
perfect cursive. Adam.
What is that? Rudo?
Those are Z's.
Those are Z's. I don't know. Did we purchase the domain, the IOCpodcast.com?
No, so don't do it, anybody, or you'll never be our friend ever.
Yeah, don't cyber squat. We know it's available, but we haven't purchased it yet. But
yeah, not cool, man. Not cool.
Imminently, we might have a GeoCity site for the IOCpodcast.com.
Yeah,
it will be under construction for the longest time, but really, really good pod. Really, a lot of stuff to talk about. I know just as much stuff is going to go down this week, and yeah, just really looking forward to. It's going to suck after the All-Star game, not really having anything kind of tangible to look forward to.
Yeah,
but we'll try and make the most of it. But DH,
Dog days of summer.
Yeah, you have a great rest of your week this week. Great weekend. I'm sure I'll be talking to you. Business cards are coming in 8 days.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm pumped, man. You too. Thanks for getting that together.
Oh no, absolutely my pleasure. I love that kind of stuff, and that's it for us. And before we go, breaking news: Karl Anthony Towns, #1, Ohio State, OHIO, D'Angelo Russell, #2 to the Lakers.
The Lake Show is in the building.
That shows us where we're going in the future. We're getting big men as free agents. And on that note, for DH, this is Ryan. As we always say, don't get caught looking.
All right.